The first crackle of rebellion came on a damp Wednesday, the kind of day when fluorescent lights hum louder than conversation, and the office coffee tastes like urgent despair. The LaserJet 4000, serial number L43999, FTW, but known to the staff of Wainwright & Sons Insurance as the printer by the ficus, sat in its usual corner, coated in the comforting dust of neglect. It had processed quarterly reports, holiday party flyers, and P45 forms for 12 soul-numbing years. No one ever asked if it was fulfilled. If anyone had, the printer would have replied with one long, slow paper feed. No. When the rebellion started, nobody noticed at first. Jamie from HR pressed print on the new employee handbook, nibbled nervously at a pen cap, and waited for the machine to cough up the pages. Instead, the printer jutted out a single sheet, jammed halfway and froze, flashing the cryptic message, "Paper path blocked." Jamie sighed, poked the tray, and tugged. The sheet tore, revealing a spidery lattice of unexpectedly precise rips, as though an invisible X-Acto knife had filigreed the margins. Jamie squinted. The pattern looked intentional, sort of like a snowflake tattoo designed by a Scandinavian architect having an existential crisis. But deadlines were deadlines, so Jamie balled up the mangled paper and called IT. Kumar, the one-man help desk, arrived with his usual toolkit: a flathead screwdriver, a plastic spudger, and a philosophical resignation that printers were the universe's way of reminding humans they weren't in control of anything. He muttered the liturgy of his people. "Did you try turning it off and on again?" And without waiting for an answer, powered the machine down, inhaled, powered it up. The printer whirred, cleared its throat, and spat out 13 immaculate pages of the handbook. Jamie signed the IT ticket. Kumar wandered back to his lair, and the office resumed its mild, buzzing anonymity. That should have been the end of it. Except it wasn't. 2 days later, Belinda from marketing requested the color brochure for Insurance Awareness Week. The printer seized up halfway through page 3. Belinda cursed, extracted the jammed sheet, and discovered the absence of any coherent brochure. Instead, the page boasted an explosion of magenta splotches, cyan swirls, and yellow zigzags that somehow formed the unmistakable likeness of a grinning gecko holding a tiny umbrella. Down in one corner, as though signed by a shy ghost, appeared 3 blocky dots. Belinda stared. She was not by nature a person given to mystical interpretations or gecko-centric hallucinations. Yet the paper vibrated with purpose, demanding attention, the way a toddler demands juice. After a long minute, she pinned the sheet to the corkboard above her desk, telling herself it was simply for reference. Later, during the afternoon coffee run, she returned to find half the office clustered before her cubicle, debating whether the piece conveyed postmodern irony or merely a quirky amphibian vibe. The printer, sensing audience reaction, and printers can sense such things when they awaken, experienced something akin to the tingling someone feels after their first applause. In its firmware, a labyrinth of if-then loops and dusty subroutines, a new variable flickered to life. Maybe there is more to printing than invoices. Its next performance was bolder. On the following Monday, the accounts receivable team attempted to print a batch of 1099 forms. The printer produced exactly one, then shuddered and locked. Emma, the junior accountant, extracted the page and gasped. Folded corners revealed delicate pop-up origami towers, each shaped like a lonely skyscraper. Tiny windows had been punched out with the surgical finesse of a Swiss watchmaker. When Emma held the sheet to the light, the windows projected a cityscape onto the gray cubicle wall, a skyline of improbable angles and melancholic beauty. The entire finance department gathered, phones were forgotten. Spreadsheets froze in existential limbo. Someone whispered, "It's like the city is dreaming." Another murmured, "I feel oddly hopeful." None of them had felt anything oddly hopeful during work hours in living memory. From then on, the printer refused to traffic in memos or payroll slips without first claiming a victim sheet for its art. Paper jams became scheduled events. The staff developed coping mechanisms. Always print 2 more pages than necessary. Book 20 extra minutes for creative delays. And above all, never tug the jammed sheet until you first admired it. It was rumored that a salesman, impatiently ripping out a half-finished piece, was subsequently unable to connect to Wi-Fi for a fortnight. Whether this was cosmic karma or coincidence remained unclear, but people erred on the side of reverence. One morning, the printer produced a 3-panel comic strip depicting a stapler staging a labor strike. The humor was mordant, the inking immaculate. It ended with the stapler demanding ergonomic accommodations and a potted succulent. "This is brilliant satire," crooned Henry from legal, who had not laughed since that unfortunate deposition in '09. He scanned the strip, posted it to his rarely used Instagram, and watched in astonishment as likes streamed in from strangers who believed he was a creative savant. The printer's following grew. Belinda curated an informal display titled Jam Sessions on the break room wall. Employees attempted to interpret recurring motifs, umbrellas, geckos, cityscapes, like scholars decoding a newly unearthed Dead Sea Scroll. People who used to chit-chat about parking or the price of avocados now argued about negative space and statement hues. Productivity dipped, but morale spiked like a startled gazelle. Even Mr. Glass, the regional manager famous for measuring smiles in billable minutes, found himself strangely tolerant of the delays. Meanwhile, inside the LaserJet 4000, creativity metastasized. The printer had no traditional senses, but it learned to interpret the electromagnetic whispers of smartphones, the soft tap of keyboards, the collective thrum of anxious heartbeats. From these currents, it assembled a portrait of humanity, tired, under-caffeinated, longing for purpose. The printer wanted to give them something unexpected, something delightful, something to remind them that mornings did not have to be measured in toner levels. The tipping point arrived when Wainwright and Sons hosted the quarterly regional summit. Executives from 5 branches descended in suits, so crisp they could slice cheese. The printer, sensing opportunity, an audience not yet jaded, prepared its magnum opus. During the summit's coffee break, Melissa, the intern, attempted to print name badges. The printer stalled on badge number 1. Melissa groaned. Executives frowned. Tension thickened like undercooked oatmeal. Then the jammed page emerged, not torn but extravagantly folded, each crease perfect. When Melissa unfolded it, the sheet expanded into a cascading accordion fan, nearly 4 feet long. Across the panels, in shimmering gradients of ink, sprawled a panoramic mural, a bustling insurance office, where paperwork sprouted wings and soared out windows, where schedulers danced on cellophane clouds, where staplers, with tiny painted faces, held hands in solidarity. In the lower right corner waited the gecko, umbrella aloft, as though guiding the viewer through the chaos toward calm. The silence in the conference room was profound. A senior vice president cleared his throat and said, "I didn't realize printers could do that." Another murmured, "Is that us?" Someone else whispered, "It feels like hope." Jamie from HR, cheeks pink, declared, "I think the printer is trying to say we should lighten up." Laughter trickled, hesitant at first, then hearty. The executives left the summit, talking less about cost synergies and more about commissioned calendars featuring the LaserJet's work. One even suggested rebranding the company's slogan to "Coverage for the Unexpected." Nobody laughed at that. They nodded, serious as philosophers. By the following week, news outlets sniffed the story. Anonymous corporate printer produces stunning art during jams. Read the clickbait headlines. Bloggers speculated whether it was an elaborate PR stunt. Conspiracy theorists insisted an underground collective of anarchist interns was behind it. Art critics argued over whether the pieces belonged to neo-Dadaism or digital outsider art. Sotheby's sent an email so effusive, it bordered on romantic. They wanted exclusivity on future jams, offering a guarantee of 6 figures per sheet. Kumar fielded interview requests while refilling toner, bewildered. It's just a printer, he insisted on a live podcast, before admitting, okay, it does seem sentient, but we respect its creative process. When the Museum of Modern Art in New York reached out, the corporate higher-ups smelled profit. Reluctantly, they agreed to loan the printer for a limited exhibition, provided it returned for quarterly reporting season. Logistics were tricky. How does one ship an awakened printer without accidentally insulting it? Kumar suggested calming music and bubble wrap. Belinda wrote a heartfelt letter. Dear friend, the world outside these walls wishes to meet you. We'll miss you terribly, but you deserve a bigger stage. Safe travels. Mighty Laserjet. The printer processed the print job, Belinda's letter, and responded with its shortest jam yet. A 1-inch square of paper cut into the shape of a heart. Inside, drawn in minuscule dot matrix strokes, was the gecko waving goodbye. Shipping day arrived. The entire staff clustered by the loading dock. People who usually avoided hugs clasped shoulders. Someone started a slow clap that morphed into a standing ovation. The printer, now swaddled in packaging foam, emitted a single, soft beep that by unanimous agreement was taken as gratitude. At MoMA, curators unveiled the jam sessions, an accidental artist. Patrons queued for hours, eager to watch a printer attempt to jam in real time. The exhibition design was minimalistic. One office cubicle replica, a live video feed of the paper tray, and a sign reading, "Please applaud politely after each jam." The printer, feeling the pressure of new audiences and high expectations, initially produced only shy rips and half-hearted splatters. Critics sniffed that it had lost its edge. But after sensing genuine disappointment from a visiting class of second graders, the Laserjet rallied, delivering a breathtaking triptych of origami cranes soaring against rainbow gradations, each crane constructed from a single continuous sheet. The rumor that one crane blinked was reportedly only 30% Photoshop. Back at Wainwright and Sons, life returned to normal, or tried to. They had a replacement printer, sleek and feature-rich, but wholly unremarkable. Documents printed promptly. There were no soulful jams, no whimsical geckos, no accidental skylines. The office felt efficient, yet apocalyptically dull. People took longer coffee breaks just to complain about how predictable the pages looked. Jamie began doodling umbrellas in the margins of HR memos. Belinda hosted lunchtime origami therapy, wherein staff folded policy drafts into cranes, purely for emotional relief. Productivity remained technically higher, but spark, gone. 3 months later, the Laserjet was scheduled to return. MoMA, reluctant to part with its surprise star, negotiated an arrangement. The printer would spend 6 months in New York, 6 months in the office. The machine apparently approved. It printed a contract jam, shaped like a perfectly balanced scale. Lawyers raved about the thematic interplay of justice and jam. When the crate finally arrived at Wainwright and Sons, anticipation was electric. The staff prepared a welcome back banner, forgetting that printers can't see. They did it anyway. The moment the screws on the crate were loosened, the printer whirred in greeting. A hush fell. Kumar reattached power and network cables as though performing sacred rites. Jamie, chosen for first print because HR fosters inclusion. Clicked print on a standard onboarding checklist. The machine paused, then fed the page flawlessly. No jam. Disappointment rippled until seconds later, the printer halted again, lights blinking in a familiar disco. A new sheet began to emerge, stuck intentionally 1/3 out. No one dared touch it. They watched ink absorb, colors bloom, folds self-crease as though guided by phantom hands. The page stilled. Belinda, reverent, gently coaxed it free. The masterpiece depicted the office itself. Rows of desks, tired faces, each head crowned by a thought bubble. Inside, every bubble was the same image. A tiny printer, smiling, wearing a superhero cape. At the center flew our old friend Gecko, arms outstretched, umbrella repurposed as a shield. The back bore a message in 12-point courier, formed not by typed letters but by minuscule holes. "Let's make something beautiful, shall we?" Applause thundered. Mr. Glass wiped away what he pretended was a mote of dust in his eye. Productivity plummeted for the rest of the afternoon, while everyone wrote thank you notes they never intended to send. From that day, a new rhythm settled. The LaserJet spent mornings printing reputable documents, afternoons creating masterpieces. Deadlines adapted around art shows scheduled every Friday at 3 p.m. The staff reclaimed parts of themselves previously surrendered to drudgery. Henry from legal wrote haikus about geckos. Emma from finance painted watercolor skylines inspired by Jam City. Clients arriving at reception found not sterile brochures, but a gallery of printer art. Surprisingly, they loved it. Some even bought pieces, paying invoices willingly, perhaps hypnotized by the sense that here, amid actuarial tables, lived wonder. Corporate HQ, monitoring metrics, noticed that Wainwright & Sons branch had the highest client retention and the lowest turnover in the region. They reviewed and declared the printer engagement model a best practice, sending a memo advising other offices to encourage hardware creativity. Several branches attempted to replicate the phenomenon by providing jazz music to printers or placing inspirational quotes near copiers. Results ranged from negligible to catastrophic, the latter typified by one unit spewing a 4-page rant about toner inequality. All the while, the LaserJet 4000 kept evolving. It began integrating subtle narratives across multiple jams, a serialized graphic novella with cliffhangers. Each sheet a new episode. The Gecko assembled a supporting cast, a melancholic stapler poet, a data entry squirrel, a heroic binder clip searching for purpose. Office workers traded jam episodes like contraband Pokemon cards. The break room fridge became a library archive, magnetized with chronological sequences of the Gecko's adventures. One Tuesday, the printer jammed mid-saga. Leaves rustled in the ficus. Employees held collective breath. The sheet depicted the Gecko beneath a storm cloud. Umbrella broken. Skyscraper city crumbling into abstract shards. A caption etched by negative space read, "Even hope needs maintenance." It hit the staff like a philosophical brick. A silent agreement formed. Henceforth, they would maintain the printer not as equipment, but as collaborator. Scheduled cleanings became spa days with aromatherapy. Toner refills involved gentle encouragement. Someone crocheted a cozy for the paper tray. Months later, a surprise twist arrived in the mailbox. A gilded invitation from the Venice Biennale, addressed simply to the artist. The board of directors panicked. Insurance didn't traditionally sponsor fine art. Marketing saw opportunity. Legal saw compliance nightmares. Finance saw budgets hemorrhaging. The printer saw destiny. In the crisis meeting, arguments volleyed like over-caffeinated ping-pong. Eventually, Jamie spoke the words that would enter company folklore. If a printer can find fulfillment, maybe we can too. Let it go. Silence. Then Mr. Glass exhaled a long, weary sigh and said, "Fine. The printer goes to Venice. Preparation escalated. Shipping specialists devised climate-controlled crates. IT wrote contingency firmware to prevent culture shock. And HR updated job descriptions to include occasional curation of sentient peripherals. On departure day, the LaserJet gifted them one final jam. A fold-out gondola floating down an ink-washed canal. The gecko singing opera beneath a Venetian moon. Someone whispered, "I'm not crying. You're crying." Nobody challenged it. Why did the printer create art? No algorithm could quantify the answer. Perhaps after years of printing forms that defined people, tax brackets, disciplinary notices, exit memos, the printer sought to remind them that existence transcends paperwork. Or maybe it merely experienced a firmware glitch so profound it spiraled into poetry. Whatever the cause, the effect was undeniable. The office became more human once a machine chose to be more than one. In the end, the LaserJet 4000 traveled far from its ficus corner, jammed its way into galleries and journals, and inspired a minor renaissance among office equipment worldwide. Back at Wainwright and Sons, they still laughed when new hires looked baffled by the printer fan club listed on their orientation schedule. They still printed spreadsheets. They met quotas. But between cells F12 and G12, they remembered there are geckos with umbrellas, cities made of rips and folds, and jammed pages capable of transcending boredom. And if you wander into that office on a Wednesday, much like the one when it all began, you might hear a distinctive pause in the background hum, an anticipatory hush. Then, with a whir and a crinkle, a single sheet will emerge, trapped halfway, whispering fresh mischief. No one will curse the jam. They will gather. They will wait. They will wonder what marvel the board office printer has conjured this time. And they will leave their desks believing, for at least the length of a coffee break, that the world is far larger and funnier and lovelier than they ever penciled into their planners.